Well, guys, today we're going to talk about the news that just happened, literally yesterday, and that Throne and Liberty launch has been delayed by roughly 2 weeks. Now, normally when we're looking at the reasons for delaying a game, it's because there's a lot of bugs and a lot of issues. And I will say this I don't know if you've seen other reviews or heard other people talk about the game. Everyone's been pretty positive about how smooth the game runs for the most part. How you can have tons of people in one area and the game still performs really, really well. That being said, when I was playing in the open beta, there was definitely some issues with regards to dungeons and matchmaking. So whenever you were matchmaking into a dungeon, a lot of the times it would sit and spin, as in like you would get this animation on the screen, and then you wouldn't actually go anywhere. You just end up in an interface, well, without any interface, and you could do anything. You basically had to close the game and relog in. And this would happen when you were entering dungeons. This would also happen when you were exiting dungeons. A ton of people reported it. So that was really like the big major like game breaking thing for me that I was like, they really need to fix this. So let's actually get into whether or not this delay I think is a good thing or a bad thing. I think that in all honesty, the game being pretty stable, I don't think that's the actual reason why. And they actually tell you here the reason why. So they're talking about here as I go through, they basically had a bunch of feedback and they're going to implement more systems. So what they're saying is our team began working after open beta to fully implementing community feedback and integrating new systems will take additional time. To give our team the time needed to incorporate the most critical pieces of feedback and systems, we decided to move the Throne and Liberty launch to October 1st, 2024, with early access starting on September 26, 2024. Below, you dive into the specifics of the updates we're implementing to ensure Throne and Liberty provides the best player experience possible at launch. So, when they're talking about one of these things, I even had people in my own videos commenting how the combat didn't feel great. This is a feedback thing that has also happened in Korea. It's not personally, I didn't mind the combat. So I know that a lot of people had the same type of feedback. I didn't mind the combat. Everyone has their own taste, but still improvements to combat are, never a bad thing. So one of them is combat. So they said we'll be working on combat to improve the early game combat experience to players, bringing it more in line with the strong positive sentiment received around the late in-game combat. So these improvements include camera controls and smoothing, which is going to be nice because I will say this. The camera controls were garbage. I set the camera sensitivity speed as high as I could, and it still didn't seem high enough. And it just seemed like I had to move my mouse a whole lot to rotate my camera view around and things like that. And I really didn't enjoy that. So this is going to be good. Adjusting the skill acquisition timing to give players access to varied abilities and builds earlier in the leveling journey. I think this will be good. I didn't feel personally that held back by it, but I guess some people did. And the improving the intuitiveness of tab targeting. This absolutely needed to happen. If you're fighting something and you hit tab, a lot of the times it would go and select something further away. So it would kind of, tab through everything on your screen. But instead of prioritizing the targets close to you, it would start prioritizing targets far away from you, just kind of like in a random list. So I'm hoping that's the way they're moving that. But those things in combat hopefully will make it better. Although I know that some people didn't really care for the clunkiness, I should say, of how skills felt. And we're going to get to that here in a second. So the other thing is leveling progression. We heard the feedback in open beta. Participants felt overwhelmed with the amount of systems they were quickly introduced to in the early stages of their journey while leveling and progressing. We're adjusting the progression journey to better spread out the introduction of systems, allowing players to focus on early questing experience and learning the ins and outs of their character and combat before diving into too many additional systems. Again, I don't personally necessarily agree with this, but if they got a lot of feedback that there was too many systems too fast, then I guess that's what's needed to happen. I personally would have liked to have access to some of the systems earlier, but this is also coming from someone who, at this point in time, at launch, would have played this game 4 times. So I am well versed in a lot of the systems, but there will definitely be new systems that are coming through that I'm not well versed in, and we'll get to those here in a second. Next thing is guilds. basically just making it easier to search for the guilds you want. And then this is actually where I think a lot of the time is coming in, is these new features. So we're announcing that we are bringing forward some of the key changes from the existing Korean version of Throne of Liberty. The 3 systems listed below aren't a comprehensive look at every change we're including, but these updates are a few that we know engaging fans will eagerly anticipate. There will also be additional quality of life and other changes included alongside these new systems, and even more will be added post-launch. So I want to talk a little bit about this before we jump into the systems. Over in Korea, the version just, I believe, upped the level cap from 50 to 55. It also introduced some new systems. I'm not going to get into them here. I'll probably include a link in my video to a Korean player. He can talk about those systems. When they first came out, they were incredibly pay to win, in his opinion. And now NCSoft kind of backpedaled on that a bit and was like, let me just clarify what he says is pay to win. What he says is pay to win is if you can't catch up with the cash players as a free to play player, then it's pay to win. If it's okay, they're more stronger than me for a couple of days or a week, but I can easily catch them and then we're on even playing field, and so who cares? Then, that's kind of the way he looks at it. I'm not saying that's my definition, but that's the way he looks at it. Anyway, so his feedback was that they had made some changes. It really made it pay to win. It was impossible, really, for the free to play players, he felt, to catch up. And then NCSoft heard the community feedback, which is good, and reverted those changes back to something that actually would make it easier for the free to play players and for everybody to kind of be on a more even playing field. So, the good and bad of that is that they tried to push something out that's way more pay to win. That's really bad. That means that their minds aren't in the right place. But on the flip side, they're willing to listen to community feedback and realize that they made mistakes and undo those changes. I do know that there was going to be probably some differences between the Korean version, obviously, and the Amazon version. I don't know if that particular system is going to show up. It's not mentioned here, or if we're going to get level 55 or any of that stuff, or it's just they're going to kind of take these new features that came out also around that time and put them into here, and the level cap is still 50, and we're still 6 months or so behind Korean version as far as like end game content. If that's what's happening, I actually do hope that's what's happening. I hope that they don't just be like, okay, you're pretty much on par with Korea, level cap's 55, all this content's getting dumped on you at once. I don't think that would be good, but and they don't say that they're doing that here, to be fair. So, I'm hoping that's not what's happening. I hope they're just basically porting those features, which actually, if I remember correctly, how this launched in Korea is these new features came out and then they did the level cap bump and game content patch after that. So this might be that we're getting the pre-content, I should say the pre-level cap and whatever expansion-ish, I don't know, really expansion, but patch basically coming to the global launch as well. And if that's what's happening, which is kind of what it sounds like, I think that will be a really, really good thing. And actually, these 2 weeks to do that, I think this is going to improve the game. It's going to add things into the game, as we'll see here shortly. I'll get into it in just a second, that are going to make the game a whole lot more appealing to more people. So the first one here is skill specialization. New skill specialization system will be implemented for launch in all regions supported by Amazon Games, allowing you to further customize your combat experience. Find a showcase of the new skill specializations below. I think their video quality is still a little trash, but basically it's kind of showing some of the changes that you can make to skills to kind of make them a little more fluid and add some more movement and things like that. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of the system, other people have, but I think it will make the combat better. So they were talking about improving combat and, their little like camera movement and tab targeting, all great things. This is, I think, what is going to fundamentally change combat for a lot of players in a way that they are actually going to enjoy. So the people that were like, the combat feels too sluggish, it doesn't feel great, this was their answer to that. I don't know if it's going to be a good answer for everybody, but yeah, it's just one of those things where I feel that if that was going to get better for somebody, this is what is actually going to do that. The next one is life skills. So we have fishing and cooking will be included for you to experience, which was actually a little weird for me. So fishing never was in the game until the patch. but cooking was like you could craft food. So I don't know what the cooking experience is. Like maybe they've improved upon that a whole lot. But yeah, and it says cooking will receive recipes divided into attack, defense, life. So it seems like they're just really overhauling the cooking experience. And then fishing will introduce a new mini game allowing you to catch a variety of fish, and so on and so forth. So that's going to be great. I'm not going to click that because it's not really doesn't really matter. So next one is I don't know how to say these. Ematoli expeditions. So the expeditions will be added and a new system allowing you to send your Ematolis. If I'm butchering this, I am so sorry. On adventures to collect rewards for you when they're not accompanying you in your adventures. It will also include the house and your base of operations, so on and so forth. So these are all like three systems. Like the combat one, I am super excited for. Life skills and fishing, like that's cool. And then I've always liked ones where it's like, okay, I have these, and now they're actually going to do something for me other than just sit there. So yes, I want to play the game today. Let's just be honest. I really enjoyed the game, but these systems, and I think them taking the time to add those in, especially listening to the feedback, because those systems were, released out there in the Korean version because it was trying to address issues and player feedback. And so what they did was they realized that a lot of that same feedback was happening, of course, over in the global release. And what they're basically kind of doing is saying, okay, we're going to take these systems that we've made over in Korea to address these issues, and we're going to put them here into the global release. So I honestly think that them delaying this is a really good thing, and it's not just like, oh, there's crunch and the game's unpolished. I mean, the game's been out in Korea since December, right? So there's a lot of things they've improved and worked on since then, and the game did feel very polished, except for the dungeons crashing on me. So long story short, delayed. I will still be getting early access. That'll be nice. Got to wait 2 more weeks now beyond what I normally would have. But again, I think the addition of these systems are time well spent. And I'll be perfectly honest, I'm actually really surprised that it's only going to take 2 more weeks to make the other tweaks that they wanted to make, and then also add these systems into the global version of the game. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. I think it's a good thing for this particular delay. A lot of times, again, when the game is delayed, it's not a good thing. I think this is actually a good thing and much needed. Anyway, I would love to see your comments down there in the comment section, see what you guys are thinking, and have a good one.